So get on your feet, it's time to raise up. Raise up, we got the AL East on lock. Raise up, we're winning and we're not gonna stop. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, raise up, you know we do it big at the Trop. Raise up, making noise whether you like it or not. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. It's a simple concept for you to comprehend. If you play the Rays, don't expect to win. Them boys hustle hard, yeah, they get it in. Competition said, oh no, not them again. Raise up, we got the AL East on lock. Raise up, we're winning and we're not gonna stop. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, you know we do it big at the Trop. Raise up, making noise whether you like it or not. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. They used to laugh at us, they had a lot of jokes. So it feels great now that they're on the ropes. We put that pressure on them every time it's close. Aggressive on the base pass, man, we go for broke. Won't backslide, cause we keep them bats live. Got a deep rotation, Rays Nation stacks fine. Defense flying all over the field. At home and away, they been showing some skills. These boys are for real, better act like you heard. All it takes is one swing from the man who plays third. That's what we call a 5-2 player. So if you love the Rays, say what I do, player. Raise up, we got the AL East on lock. Raise up, we're winning and we're not gonna stop. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, you know we do it big at the Trop. Raise up, making noise whether you like it or not. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up. Raise up, Tampa Bay, raise up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special pregame show for your Tampa Bay Rays here on Frankly Speaking Sports. And what a great night it is to join us today. We're about an hour and 5 minutes away from first pitch. Go ahead, folks. There's a lot of pregame shows going on, but if you want to get involved and you want to join us, you want to make a phone call, you want to call us in, you want to leave a comment, you want to get it answered, tonight's the night to do that right here on Frankly Sports. We're about 15 minutes away from having Daniel Marcillo from the Empire Media Group. He covers Major League Baseball. He's covered the Mets before, does a lot with Major League Baseball. So he'll be joining us in about 15 minutes. But this is your show tonight, folks. It is Game 6. It is a must-win game for your Tampa Bay Rays, and we are just so very, very happy to have you with us today. I know there's a lot of people on a lot of different groups that are watching us tonight, and thank you so very, very much. The reason I did this show tonight was because we had quite a few people said, Larry, are you doing a pregame show tonight? I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. We're going to have fun. And the best part of the entire night's going to be after the pregame show when we get to watch our Tampa Bay Rays tie up the World Series at 3 games apiece. For those of you listening right now, if you can please all do me a favor, and if you can go ahead and go ahead and share this to your timeline. Remember that I do not know who is texting me. So if you are a YouTube user or anyone that is, on Facebook, if you didn't give them permission to go ahead and use your name, please go ahead and just let me know who you are. I'd love to welcome you to the show. But what a great night it's going to be. And I'm going to tell you, for all you fans out there, all you fans that are worried, we're going to win this game tonight. I'm telling you right now, we are going to win this game tonight. A lot of people say, well, Larry, do we really match up that well against the Dodgers? And the answer to that is yes. We really do match up well. And I'm going to tell you why we're going to win tonight, and I'm going to tell you why we're going to win convincingly tonight. Tonight's one of those nights, And I talked about it, many, many times. People hear me talk about this on my show, and I talk about whether you want to call it small ball, whether you want to call it fundamental baseball, whatever you like to call it. But tonight's game going to come down to those games that you don't learn on the Major League Baseball field. It's going to come down to this. Angelo, my buddy from New Jersey, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you on Frankly Speaking Sports, our Rays preview edition. And I'll tell you what, tonight's game is going to come down. It's always one big play that comes down to something that you learned a long time ago. Comes back to something that you learned in youth baseball or in high school baseball or in college baseball, and if you look at sports in general, I talked about one play last year. If you remember the Houston Astros playing the Tampa Bay Rays and a ball's hit into the outfield, Kiermaier gets the ball, throws it to Adames, who throws it to Travis d'Arnaud to get the runner out at the plate. Those are things you learn in youth baseball. Hitting the cutoff man. These are things that are going to win and lose games. What happened the other night when the Rays came back and won the miraculous Game 4? It's not about always hitting the home run. It's about putting the ball in place. If you put the baseball in play, something is going to happen. It's either going to benefit you or it's not going to benefit you. But when you put the ball in play, you force the team to go ahead and make the play, and that's when those teams are going to make mistakes like they did in that game, and the Tampa Bay Rays were able to win the ball game. So I want to thank you all very, very much for joining us today. Like I said, we're about 10 minutes away from having Daniel Marcillo join us live. I will be looking at my phone continuously. Let me go ahead and see if I can get that number up here for you all to call in on. I don't think anybody really needs to know my name anymore. All right, so there we go. If you want to call in, you want to get on the show, you want to get live, do it when Daniel's not doing his interview, please. But go ahead, call us up, talk to us, ask us questions. And like I was saying before I was reading the messages, it's going to come down to fundamentals. Which team plays the best fundamental baseball? Which team plays great defense? Which team has great pitching? Which team puts the ball in place the most? And, a lot of people ask me about Blake Snell, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. Blake Snell is a strikeout pitcher. If you look at Blake Snell, and I expected him to go 7 innings tonight, you're asking for too much from Blake Snell. Because if you look statistically at Blake's career, he only averages about 5 innings an outing. And one of those reasons that he does that is he is a strikeout pitcher. And when you're a strikeout pitcher, you're going to throw more pitches to batters because most people don't strike out on 3 consecutive pitches, although it does happen sometimes. What Blake needs to do is mix in a couple of 1-pitch or 2-pitch outs in there where he offsets the strikeouts and allows the longevity of him throwing maybe a little longer. But the main thing Blake has to do tonight, and it's real simple formula for me to sit here and say, but he needs to get ahead of the hitters. Blake Snell cannot fall behind 1-0 or 2-0. He has to get that first pitch strike in there at least 75% of the times or higher, or he's not going to have a successful night. Now, for those of you that do not know, the Dodgers are the home team tonight, which means your Tampa Bay Rays will be batting first. The main thing the Rays need to do starting first is they need to attack this guy Gonsolin. This is a guy that only pitched 1 inning last game. They used him as an opener, Dave Roberts did, and he went 1 inning. And if you remember, Brandon Lau did take him deep in that 1 inning. And I think you're going to see people like Brandon Lau, Austin Meadows are going to break out. If there's and Brandon Lau has broken out the last couple games, but this is the time when you need everybody on the same page. And, you can't think about tomorrow night. Somebody says, well, you got to save someone for tomorrow night. The hell with tomorrow night. Because if you don't win tonight, there is no tomorrow night. Once again, our phone number is up. You can call in on the Frankly Speaking Sports Rays pregame show hotline at 813-922-9810. It doesn't matter where you're calling from. Go ahead and give us a call. Get involved. Let's get your input on Game 6 tonight, which is starting in a little less than an hour. For those of you that are joining us, please share this to your timeline. Please share it to your page. Please share it to any groups you have. We want to get people involved. That's the reason why we did this special show for you tonight. If you're on this Frankly Speaking Sports platform, great. Go ahead and leave a comment. We can see that as well. For those of you just joining us tonight and have not heard, it'll be Blake Snell, the left-handed former Cy Young Award-winning pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays, going up against Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin is 0-2 in the playoffs, has an ERA just under 10, so he's been knocked around, including by our very own Brandon Lau, who took him deep in the last game that he did pitch. So, a lot looking up for our Rays. Like I said, we just got to play smart baseball. And, we talk about a hitting zone, and I talked about that a lot on these pregame shows. These guys got to dial in on a zone. Anything out of that zone, they need to take. If it's in that zone, they need to swing, and they need to swing aggressively. Home runs, although they're more glamorous, and it sounds like to a lot of the people out here that listen to these shows that they win ball games, it doesn't win as many ball games as you think. Of course it helps, and I don't want to, mislead you that it doesn't help, but it's the small thing, getting productive outs, hitting a ball to the right side of the infield with a guy on second and no outs, moving him over to third. So a guy now can hit a fly ball, hit a sacrifice fly, and knock him in. There is a lot more ways to be productive that doesn't show in the box score than what we are doing right now. We have to do the things to win game. A lot of people ask me, well, Larry, how about this fluke thing that happened the other night in Game 5 with Manuel Margot? It wasn't a fluke thing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Whether Kevin Cash made the call or Manuel made the call on himself, good. Because now, no matter what happens these next two games, when we have a runner on third, the pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, whoever it is, has to have that mental thing in their head that at any time this team is not afraid to steal home or go on contact. And it does a lot when you can get inside the other side's pitcher's head. It does a lot for you. So, while it may not look like it was a great play in the previous game, you will see that could end up being a very big psychological play in Game 6 or in Game 7. And like I said, the big thing for the Rays tonight is going to be putting the ball in play, making the Dodgers feel the ball, making the Dodgers make the necessary plays they're supposed to make. And, it's that one or two times where they don't that could lead to big innings. Number two, they have to score when they get runners on base, whether it means sacrificing them over. I said that over and over again, pushing them over, productively moving them over, whatever it might be, that is what they need to do. I do want to remind you, we have a comment section. If you have any comments, thoughts, things you want to talk about, you can leave a comment here. If you want to go ahead and call in, there is a call-in number here. We're going to get Daniel Marcillo here in 1 second. I'm going to get him on. And then after Daniel is done, we're going to go ahead after that interview, and we're going to go ahead and look at the starting lineups for both teams. That's what I'm pulling up right now, so bear with me while the hands get a little sweaty and I try to pull all that up. Let's get postseason stats. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me move over here because I know I got Daniel. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to introduce to you from the Empire Media Group, my good friend, my good buddy, Daniel Marcillo. Daniel, how you doing tonight, sir?
Doing terrific. Thank you for having me on. How are you?
Daniel, it's great to have you on, buddy. And the last time you and I talked, you and I were just talking on the phone, and we were just talking about let's get the damn season started already. We were both excited for obvious reasons. Baseball wasn't going around, and now we could be the last week of baseball. We're talking again, and I'm so grateful that we've had the opportunity to get you on a couple times this year. As we always enjoyed your input. So let me ask you this: we're in what, game 6 tonight? Let's go over the first couple of games, and you look at the Dodgers and you look at the Tampa Bay Rays. What are your thoughts about the matchup now that you got to see us play 5 games? Are they evenly matched up, not evenly matched up? Do you think one team has more of an advantage than the other? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a very even matchup because of where each team differs. Like, you look at the Tampa Bay Rays, what do they do so well? They have an outstanding defensive group, and they have an outstanding bullpen. But what do the Dodgers have as well? They have a killer offense. They can beat you with getting guys on base. They can beat you with their power. But then it's sort of an even matchup when you look at the starting pitching. I mean, the Rays, they'll roll out Blake Snell, Glasnow, and Morton. But at the same time, the Dodgers have Kershaw and Buehler. Really, for them, the big wild card is, what are you going to get out of Gonsolin? I mean, that's been their biggest question throughout this postseason. So to me, I think this is a very, very even matchup. And to me, the biggest key for anybody to win this series is get on the board first. I mean, we've seen when the Dodgers have won, they get on the board first. They'll score 1 or 2, and then they'll supplement it. They'll score 3, 4, 5 more runs before the Rays even get on the board, and vice versa. So I think that's the biggest thing you need to look at tonight, and especially when knowing the Dodgers have such a short leash with Gonsolin that you want to get him out of there earlier than even Dave Roberts wants to, because then at that point you can get into that bullpen. And if you can win game 6 and face the Dodgers with a short bullpen in game 7, to me, the advantage has to go with the Rays.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I look at Gonsolin from the last game. I think it was 3 games ago. He pitched 1 inning. I believe Brandon Lau, if I remember correctly, that was the only run that Gonsolin gave up. But they did have a quick leash on him. And my expectation tonight is it could even be shorter than we thought that was short enough. But this is a Rays team that if they want to take control, they can't wait till the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning. They're up first this game. The Dodgers are the home team in this game, which means the Rays have to come out with that lineup. They made a couple of changes as far as tweaking people where they're batting, and they always would face towards a Gonsolin type pitcher. And I think the big key to the Rays is, the first thing is, I talked about this earlier, is jumping on the Dodgers early, quickly, and often. And also, even a bigger key is, you cannot expect to have things happen when you strike out 16, 17, 18 times in a game. You have to put the ball in play. And when in a play, I'm talking about on the ground. The Rays have something that a lot of teams don't have, and that is they can run. They got a lot of speed on the bases, and we saw in game 5, even though everyone's talking about this miraculous play, speed on the bases and putting the ball in play will put a lot of pressure on the defensive side of the baseball.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. I mean, you look at that whole play of that sort of weird ending to that game in the series where Rosarena's speed made the hugest difference on there. He might have been out by 15 feet should they have completed a perfect throw to the catcher. But the speed on that play, I mean, you have so many guys in this lineup, and you talk about this lineup tonight where they've changed it up a bit. They understand that the leash is probably going to be very short on Gonsolin tonight. And so you put 3 lefties and your 4 hitters. And, of course, Arozarena is as hot as anybody could ever be right now. So I think you're putting yourself in a position, especially when you have a guy who's a very good on-base guy, pretty much a right-handed Yandy Diaz when it comes to that stuff, for the Rays, that the last thing Gonsolin's going to want to do is put a guy on to face Arozarena in the first inning.
Yeah, and you talk about starting pitching versus starting pitching. Tonight, former Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell going, and I watched Blake Snell. I'm not sure how much of an opportunity, being in New York. I know obviously when he faces the Yankees, you do have an opportunity to watch him. But Blake Snell is the type of pitcher that needs to get ahead in the strike zone if he's going to be successful, because he's not going to give you 7 or 8 innings. Anybody that's expecting that is foolish. If you look at his statistics from the day he started in Major League Baseball to now, he's only averaged 5 innings. And part of that reason, Daniel, being that he's a strikeout pitcher. And we know not every guy strikes out on 3 consecutive pitches in Major League Baseball. It's just not going to happen. So if you strike out a lot of guys, your pitch count's going to be high. And obviously, with him being injured, he doesn't, last year they take it easy on him. It's not like it used to be. So I think the key also, when you look at the Rays tonight, besides what we talked about offensively, is going to be Blake Snell getting ahead of the hitters. And when he does get a strikeout here or there, maybe throwing in, that one batter where he gets a 1-0 pitch to, 2 out on a pop-up or a ground ball.
Right, and that's one of the biggest things where sometimes his stuff plays against him, where his strikeout pitches are those sliders and the curveballs. And so what do you expect? A lot of balls in the dirt. It's not like a guy with Glasnow's fastball where he can throw it up in the zone where he'll get swing and misses, or he'll just get taken strikes, or will be put in play. Either way, those pitches are strikes. With Snell, he's got that strikeout stuff. He's got the good fastball too, but for him, really, it's that slider and the curveball. So for me, I'd like to see him, if he's got good command of those pitches, he'll have the ability to throw them for a strike and throw them for a ball whenever he wants to. So I think that can allow him to get to maybe 6, 7 if you're really having a good night for Snell. But that's going to be an interesting thing too, because we've seen Kevin Cash be a little more aggressive with Glasnow and Morton, where Glasnow threw, I think it was 100 and something pitches the first game he threw in the series, and he let Morton have a longer leash when they were hitting him around a little bit early in his start. So I think that's going to be one of the interesting things to look at, because as we said before, if you can have a bullpen that's a little more rested than what the Dodgers have going into Game 7, the advantage is all in their hands, and especially with how smart Cash is with that bullpen, the advantage has to be in their hands.
Yeah, and when you talk about bullpen to bullpen like you are, you got to, I would think, give the edge definitely to the Tampa Bay Rays. Let's just say if everybody is ready to go, and obviously on a game like tonight for the Rays, everybody is ready to go, whether they like it or not. But you got to think, Jensen hasn't been anything that's overwhelming. Kelly hasn't been anything that's been overwhelming. Whereas, the Rays, even in the last game where they lost 4-2 the other night, it was 3 early runs, I think, in the first 2 or 3 innings, like you said, that the Dodgers jumped on top. And then overall, I thought the bullpen was lights out the rest of the game for the Rays.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And that's where I think the difference is between these two bullpens, because it's not just saving a lead as well. It's that if you have to turn to your bullpen earlier than you expect to, can they keep that 3-0 game at 3-0 or 4-0 the most, instead of letting it get to 6 and 7 runs, where you're really asking for a huge miracle to come back, instead of having something like 3 or 4 runs, which is certainly manageable for any team in any game.
Now, let me ask you, it's kind of amazing when you think about it that the Rays are in Game 6 of a World Series with the way their offense or lack of offense has been really performing. They've got a couple of big hits, like we know. The Brett Phillips one, a couple of home runs here and there where they came back. But overall, except for Rosarina, maybe, who is probably the hottest guy to play in the last 10 years right now, this team has not clicked on all cylinders on the offensive side of the ball. In the next 2 games, if they can put it together, this could be a very dangerous offensive team that a lot of people aren't giving a lot of credit right now.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you got to think about. When you have a team who's struggling on offense, what do you have to do to win games? You have to excel in the other parts of the game, which means that stellar defense that they've been playing, that fantastic pitching, both in the bullpen and the starting pitching. I mean, Kevin Cash has done a great job all around plugging in pinch hitters and changing lineups. So if you can get any sort of offense from the guys who have been struggling, like a Brandon Lau, like Austin Meadows, if you can get that tonight, you're looking at a good position. And we thought we were going to see Lau break out in this series after he hit those 2 home runs early in the series, but he's kind of gone a little quiet since. So hopefully they can get a little bit extra out of those guys tonight.
So I'm going to ask you a question. This is opinion. You've been around the game a long time too, and you've seen a lot. I mean, it seems like we see something different every time we watch a game that we've never seen before. Manuel Margot attempts to steal home, which is nothing new. We've seen people try to steal home. And I want to play this out a minute, okay? What looks like a play in people's heads that say they gave up a run. Yes, maybe it was bad timing, however you want to word it. No outs, a runner on first and third, that potential score. But I look at it a little differently, and I want to get your perspective on this. Yes, he was out. Okay, no doubt about it. He's out. But going forward now, when a runner is on third base for the Rays, it's got to be mentally in the pitcher's head of the Los Angeles Dodgers now that these guys are not afraid to take chances.
Yes, and that's a good point because we've talked about they have so much speed that they're a very smart and aggressive team. And then you got to remember, too, that they have a lot of guys in that Dodger bullpen who don't like to throw the bases. I mean, McGee's one of them. Jansen's one of them. And not to mention, you can play that game again where you try to steal home. The only way I would have maybe tweaked how they had done it a little bit was have the base runner at first force Kershaw to have to pick off to them and then have Margot move on the first movement once he lifts that leg going to first base. That's sort of like the Bryce Harper play that he did during his rookie season. But I think when you do something like that, you force Muncy to make a throw to home plate. And not to forget that in game 4, he kind of threw like a Frisbee, like a cutter over to the catcher, lost him the game. So make him throw the ball, make him make plays. Not saying that he's a bad defender, but I think I feel a little more confident in scoring with Muncy throwing the ball instead of a veteran like Kershaw, seeing how well he handled that stolen base attempt in game 5.
And, you talk about some of these Rays that people are talking about. You talked about Brandon Lau not having it together yet. We talked about Austin Meadows. Let me ask you this. One of the guys that is under the radar, obviously everybody knows that Rosarina, but has to be Manuel Margot. I mean, here's a guy batting 300 in the postseason, second on the team in home runs, and you just mentioned the amount of speed this guy has. He's not only a dangerous player for today and tomorrow, but definitely could be a player of the future for these Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, and that's a very good point because he was in the San Diego Padres organization, and they sort of just passed up on him. They had high hopes in him, but he never quite panned out. And now he's going from a guy who couldn't scratch that outfield. So now he's been the number 4, number 5, and a guy batting in the middle of the lineup, not just using his good speed and defense to make a difference, but he's a guy that's becoming a legitimate bat in the Tampa Bay Rays lineup. And that just goes to show it's just another guy that the Rays have brought in that other people wouldn't look at as a big piece, but they bring him in, and he's become a huge part of what the Rays have done this year. And you're right, he has been overshadowed by the amazing things that Rosarena has done all postseason.
So let's go in a nutshell here, Daniel. The Rays obviously are in an elimination game. They lose, they're done. In your opinion, in a synopsis, I know we talked about the offense, we talked about the defense, we talked about the speed, we talked about them jumping on the Dodgers early, but if there's one man tonight on both teams, let's start with the Rays first, that needs to show up to play tonight, that may not have been there, throughout the series, who is the one guy that you think will and needs to show up tonight?
Well, I think it's got to be Brandon Lau for the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, Kevin Cash is putting a lot of hope in this guy. I mean, you think about it too with Meadows and Lau. You could really pick either one for this situation because they are batting 3 and 4 tonight, and when you have guys that have been struggling like that, Kevin Cash is putting the confidence in them to say that if they're going to pitch around a Rosarena, which it seems like that's going to be the motive, especially when you have two guys struggling behind him, these are the guys that are going to have to come out and make them pay. And in turn, if they hit tonight, a Rosarena is going to get to hit tonight because they're going to have to pitch to him instead of facing the two left-handed batters, and especially Brandon Lau, who I guarantee at some point tonight he's going to come up in a big situation to drive in runs. So it's going to be a matter of can he do the job and can he get hot again like he looked like he was going to early in the series.
And, one person that's being left out before we get to the Dodgers side and that I really think needs to show up has to be Willy Adames. You haven't, obviously he makes some unbelievable defensive plays that people say, well, he's making these defensive plays, but they need his bat in that bottom of the lineup because overall, when you look at the bottom three of that lineup, you got to be pretty happy as Kevin Cash to see Kiermaier batting 250 at which, they don't usually expect that. And I know that sounds funny, but he's in there for defensive, perfection, and he's hitting the ball, and he's gotten some timely hits for the Rays. Then Adames is sandwiched in between him and Mike Zunino, who has had an average, I wouldn't say anything spectacular, but he's hit 4 or 5 homers in the postseason, has done more than any of us would have expected. As talking about Blake Snell earlier and how many balls he throws in the dirt, you got to have Zunino back there and on his game on the defensive side. So I got to say, to me that really hasn't shown up for them has to be Willy Adames. It's like you said, Brandon Lau has spouts. Meadows hits a homer here and there. But you have not heard the name Willy Adames in this series.
Yeah, we didn't see much. We haven't seen much of him since probably early in that Astros series. And he's a guy that when he makes contact, he doesn't just hit singles. This is a guy who can be a legitimate power bat in their lineup. And there was parts early in the season where he was batting in that middle of the order where we see Meadows and Lau batting tonight. So I think he's going to also have to play a huge part because he's in that little transitional period of the lineup where you go from your dangerous bats all the way down to guys like Kiermaier and Zunino. So it's important for him to get on. So when the Rays turn that lineup over, they have something they can work with. It isn't just Choi or Rosarena leading off every time they come up to bat.
So let's switch over to the other side, the Dodgers. I know you got to see their lineup probably by now. The one guy in that lineup that same idea as Willy Adames or Brandon Lau that has to get going in order for them to at least win one of these next 2 games.
Well, for them, I would say the biggest guy is, and it sounds a little weird because he's been hitting in spurts, but is Max Muncy. We've seen him get on base an incredible amount in this Dodger lineup. And we saw him hit the big home run against Glasnow with no doubter. So I think that's getting him going because I don't think he was really in a slump per se when it comes to hitting the ball because he was seeing the ball well enough where he was continuing to draw walks as that number 4 guy in the order. So now he's hitting home runs. He's starting to hit singles and doubles like the Max Muncy that became a star over the last couple of seasons. So I think when you have him, again, sandwiched in between 2 guys who have had an extremely clutch postseason in Turner and Smith, I think you're looking for another big game out of Muncy to really lift up the power that the Dodgers have in this lineup.
Yeah, and I look at the bottom of their lineup a little bit. Seems like they've been struggling a little bit. The Cody Bellinger, the Smith in the DH spot, those are guys that are usually a little bit more consistent than they're playing right now. They're not doing terrible. They're not under the Mendoza line by any means, but just not consistently hitting the ball. But so what do you look for in tonight's game?
Well, what I look for is one of the first things we spoke about is who is going to get out to that quick start within those first 3 innings, because you want to see Snell get off to a hot start, where his curveball and slider are working well, and he's throwing it both for a strike and for a ball, getting those swings and misses. On the other side, for the Dodgers, you really want to see them – you want to see how their aggressiveness works both offensively and with the pitching, because you want to see how aggressive Dave Roberts is going to ride with Gonsolin. But you want to see how well the Dodgers' patience is with Blake Snell. We see them be very patient, run guys' pitch counts up all throughout the postseason. So, for a fact, after watching them, so I don't want to say struggle, but they were held at bay in those 4+ innings that Snell threw earlier in the series. You want to see them break out against Blake Snell. See if they can do that. And if they don't get to Snell early and you let him settle in, it could be a long night, especially when you know what pitchers are going to be coming after him.
Psychologically, how big is it for Blake Snell that his team scores in the top of the first inning?
Well, for him, I think it means all the world. I think it's a guy we see that always pitches with great confidence. But when you see that your offense is going to be ready to go tonight, and knowing that if you get that run early off of Gonzalez and that you're going to see a lot of the bullpen later on in the game, you have to have that confidence of your Blake Snell, knowing that if I get my job done here, we're going to a Game 7 and we have a very good shot to take this thing. So I think for him, his confidence is already high, but I think it'll be skyrocketed should the Rays get off to a good start against the Dodgers here early on.
And you just got into my next question. Beautiful segue, by the way, into that, because we're talking about Gonzalez. You and I talked about this earlier in the show, that we don't expect him to be in there more than an inning, if maybe a batter or something, if he gets 3 quick outs in the first inning. But this is a guy you not expect. When you start putting the bullpens in the game, when you start getting that Dodger bullpen into that game, I would think, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't want to be biased because I watch the Rays, but I would think that would benefit the Rays offense when you get to the Dodgers bullpen.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. And no disrespect to relievers, but what relievers are? They are failed starters. They are pitchers who aren't good enough to pitch multiple innings, so they're only good when they pitch in 1-inning spurts. So you're rolling the dice every time you're bringing a new guy. It's like you're pulling the slot machine over and over again, hoping to hit the jackpot and knowing that if you pitch 6-7 different guys, it's very, very tough for all 6 to 7 of those guys to be perfect. You may have one guy in there that has an inning where he gives up 2, 3, 4 runs, and that, quite frankly, could be the difference between a win and a loss.
And you made a great point about the relief pitches, and I wanted to go into that with you. Nick Anderson. People are saying, well, it seems like the last couple of games, Nick Anderson isn't looking like the guy he looked the previous 4 games. And I told someone, I said, when you're a relief pitcher and you're used to coming in, putting the smoke out in 1 inning and that's it, there's a huge difference between going in and throwing a second inning when you're not used to it. People say, well, it's only 1 more inning. I say, well, that's double the amount of production that you're used to getting out of this guy. And I don't think people realize that, first of all, we know all these pitchers are tired. Every single person that's playing, they've been in this, atmosphere now for a while, but not to make excuses, it is a big difference. And if you look at the Rays, even last game when they lost 4-2, the relief pitcher was 1.1 inning, 1 inning, 1 inning, 0.2 innings, 1.2 innings. And it was right around that number that you're talking about, that 1 inning. It is a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you think about, it's not just the amount of innings that Anderson throws, but the way Kevin Cash uses him is that he's not just facing 7, 8, 9. Every time, or almost every time Anderson comes in, he is facing the tough parts of the lineup. He's facing Seager, Betts, and Turner. Those are the guys he's facing. So he's a great reliever, but it's hard to expect him to be perfect every single time when you've got to face Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, and Justin Turner over and over again. It's hard for the best pitchers in baseball, starting pitchers in baseball, to get these guys out consistently, let alone any reliever.
And it's not just that, Daniel. You hit a point where it's that tough part of the order they're using them. And, Kevin Cash, as imaginative as he is or inventive as he is, he doesn't care if it's the 3rd inning or the 8th inning. If it's a tough jam and it's a tough part of the order that can make a big difference at that moment in the game, he's bringing Nick Anderson in, and he's shown that. I'll bring him in the 3rd. I'll bring him in the 6th. I'll bring him in the 9th. I don't care.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing. It's pretty much 1A and 1B with Anderson and Diego Castillo, where those are the 2 guys that are going to pitch in high leverage situations. And it's going to be interesting because you know for a fact that we're playing 2 games over the next 2 days for the Rays. Both of those guys are going to pitch. So I can imagine them being in a situation where you have Anderson throw one tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to push him to throw an extra inning tomorrow if they even get to that point, because at that point, there's no game 8. That's it. Tomorrow's the last day to get there. So they're going to ask these guys, especially Castillo, especially I wouldn't be surprised if Glasnow's in the mix tomorrow as well if they get there, that they're going to ask guys to really push themselves with their backs against the wall tonight.
Daniel, let's say, and I know we hate hypotheticals, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's say the Rays win tonight. However they win, they win. Do they have the momentum tomorrow, or do you think it's an even Steven? Momentum don't matter when it comes to Game 7?
Well, I think that's where it's going to be interesting because you got to assume that if I was assuming, I would assume the Dodgers would come back with Walker Buehler on very short rest for Game 7. And at the same time, if you get there, Gonsolin's not going to be going deep into the game. So they've already used a lot of their bullpen. And you're going to assume that they're important guys. They're Trinans, Baez, Jansen. Those guys are going to have to pitch in back-to-back days. And I can imagine one of the guys who's going to struggle with that is going to be Kenley Jansen. And you have a Rays bullpen. You have a guy in Kevin Cash who I think is head and shoulders above the type of manager that Dave Roberts is. So I think a lot of those things are going to swing into the advantage of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Now, does it surprise you? Because I'll be honest with you, the one thing that surprised me about the Dodgers, I know how they use the opener, and everybody thinks that Kevin Cash, when they need certain things. But, it surprised me, and I want to get your perspective on this, is you're in Game 6, okay? You want to win it tonight. Tonight to you is like a Game 7, no matter what you want to say. But you would go ahead and put a guy like Gonsolin that is only going to go an inning and put that much work. You got to figure if Gonsolin can't get out of the first inning, they're using, I'm just guesstimating, at least another 4 to 5 pitches throughout this game. Then they got to go in tomorrow with what I would call a very tired bullpen. And I know you can't worry about tomorrow, but in this case, they got the 1-game lead. Doing it this way could really destroy them should the Rays win this game tonight.
Exactly. And the big question for Dave Roberts is he's got that lefty weapon, Urias, in the bullpen. Is he going to use him tonight, or is he going to stay away from him? And is he going to be the guy that starts Game 7 if we get there tomorrow? So I think if I'm Dave Roberts, I got to go for the kill tonight because tomorrow I wouldn't believe that they have the advantage. I think tonight the Dodgers only have the advantage if Gonsolin does his job. If he doesn't do his job early on, then immediately early in this game it swings to the Rays. But the advantage tonight is not as big as it was when they had Kershaw on the mound the other night. I think right now, if you're looking at it's like a 55-45 split in terms of what the advantage is looking like for the Dodgers. And it's something that can easily swing depending on Gonsolin, who I just don't think they have any confidence in to see the order a second time.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Well, listen, my friend, as always, it's been a great baseball year. Especially down here in Tampa Bay, as you know. But we always do this. We always say the year's going to be over, and then before you know it, we're in spring training talking about how excited you are about the Mets and how excited I am about the Rays all over again. But I want to thank you so much for the 3 or 4 times that you come on our show so far this year. We really enjoyed having you. And thanks again for coming on short notice tonight.
Hey, I appreciate it. Of course, anytime you need it. Thank you so much.
All right. You be safe, my friend.
You too.
All right. That was Daniel Marcillo from the Empire Media Group. Always great insight from Daniel on baseball in general. He just doesn't carry the Mets and cover the Mets and stuff. He covers everything. He's a baseball mind that knows the game, follows the game, and follows all the different teams. I do want to go over the lineups with you, but before we get to that, I want to thank, first of all, our sponsor for tonight's show, Kia of Brandon. You looking for a car? You're looking for a new car, used car, great service on your vehicles, where you don't have to get all these headaches and these pushy people trying to sell you stuff. You got to go to Kia Brandon. I went to Kia Brandon. My buddy Eldon, E-L-D-E-N. Ask for Eldon. He'll take great care of you. They got a whole new stock of cars, used and new cars. Just ask for Eldon. He'll sit down with you. He'll sort things out with you. And he won't give you all this high high pressure junk that a lot of these auto salesmen give you. Go to Kia Brandon, located on Highway 60 on the border of Brandon and Tampa at 301 and Highway 60. Ask for Eldon and tell him Larry from Frankly Speaking Sports sent you. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and I told you we were going to go ahead and take care of the lineups for tonight's game. And if you didn't hear earlier in the show that the Tampa Bay Rays will be the visiting team tonight, they are the visiting team. So we're going to go ahead and give you the Rays lineup first. Batting first, the first baseman, G-Man Choi. So G-Man's going to be leading off tonight. In the postseason, he's batting a quiet 263. He's another one that usually gets big hits in big games. So I look for him to be fired up tonight. Number 2, playing right field, batting 370 so far in the postseason. Randy Arozarena has 9 homers, 13 RBIs. Most hits ever in a postseason by a rookie. Then you got the slumping Austin Meadows, who will be DHing, followed by the cleanup hitter, second baseman Brandon Lau. Lau seems the last couple of games been coming out of it a little bit. I pick him to have a big game tonight. He went deep last game that Gonsolin did pitch, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see Brandon Lau get an opportunity in the first inning tonight with a runner on base and jack one out. Then batting fifth, Manuel Margot. What a great postseason he's having as well, batting 296. Then third baseman Joey Wendell, followed by Willie Adames, the shortstop, who definitely needs to get things going tonight. Batting eighth, Kevin Kiermaier, and then batting ninth, who might be one of the biggest guys in the game tonight, not just from an offensive standpoint, but from a defensive standpoint, is catcher Mike Zunino. Everybody knows about those sliders that Blake Snell likes to throw. He's going to really be busy behind home plate tonight. So let's hope for a good game out of Mike Zunino, batting ninth. And then, of course, Blake Snell is the pitcher tonight. The left-handed pitcher is 2-2 with a 3.33 ERA in the postseason. He does have 28 strikeouts. Now for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Right fielder is Mookie Betts, batting first, leading off. Corey Seager, second, is having an unbelievable postseason. The shortstop is batting 344, 8 homers, and 19 ribbies. Then you got batting third, Justin Turner, who's been hot of late, batting 262 in the playoffs. Then fourth is Max Muncy, playing first base. Batting fifth, the DH, Will Smith. Batting sixth is Cody Bellinger, the center fielder. Batting seventh is Chris Taylor, the second baseman. Batting eighth, A.J. Pollock, the left fielder. And then catching tonight is Austin Barnes. So that's the lineup there for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Pitching is right-handed Tony Gonsolin. He's 0-2 in the playoffs, has a 9.39 ERA. I don't look for him to go much further than one inning in this game. I'm just reading a couple of messages here. I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. All right, good. So we answered that question. One of our things goes, how important is it to get to the bullpen of the Los Angeles Dodgers? Well, first of all, thank you for the question. We appreciate you giving your comments on Frankly Speaking Sports. And as Daniel and I said earlier today in the show, it's not a matter of if we're going to see their bullpen. We're going to see their bullpen. The chance is that we may see that bullpen as early as the first inning. I think the Rays can really take advantage of this guy, Tony Gonsolin, and really score quickly and often on him in the first inning. And that's what we need to do. We need to have it where it's no doubt whose game this is by the first half inning. We are psychologically going to have to take them out of the game. And this bullpen is not as great as a bullpen as it has shown on paper. Jansen, we talked about, has been struggling. We talked about Kelly's been struggling. And, right now I understand that the Los Angeles Dodgers and Dave Rogers, they're thinking about tonight's game. But, should the Rays, bat quickly and get some runs real early in this game, not only are the Dodgers digging a very big hole for themselves tonight with that bullpen, but they're also building a very huge hole for Game 7. So to answer your question, it's not a matter when we see the bullpen. It's how often are they going to be switching pitchers throughout this game? Because I'll tell you right now, I do not expect much out of Gonsolin. I haven't seen him a lot. I've only seen him during the playoffs. I saw Brendan Lowe jack one out last game off him. So we'll see what happens, but I will tell you that, I'm expecting good things out of the Rays tonight. I'd be surprised, and, I'd be surprised if it's a close game. Now, I'm not going to be upset with myself if it is and they still win the Rays. I'll be fine with that. A win is a win, and that's what we need. There's only one thing we need tonight. It's not everybody to hit a home run. It's not everybody to hit a single. It's not everybody to hit a double. It's not everybody to strike somebody out. We need a W. That's all we need. We win the game if we get a W. We score more runs than they do. The game is over. We win. Okay? Seems easy. Seems logical. But that's what we got to do to win this game. You don't go in there as a manager right now. Kevin Cash should not need to go in there and fire his team up. There is no reason. If they're not fired up to play now, they're never going to be fired up. And I'll tell you right now, this team is fired up to play. This team wants to I will tell you right now that this team wants to win more tonight than, they want to win more tonight than the LA Dodgers. Because, the LA Dodgers, could be thinking they have one more game. I will tell you tonight, okay? And people say to me, tonight's winner wins the series. Obviously, if LA wins, they win the series automatically. If the Rays win tonight, you will see the Rays win Game 7. That's my prediction on it. I think the Rays have a better bullpen. I think overall the Rays have a lot of scrappy players, and they got a lot of speed. So, we got about 3-4 minutes left. I'm looking at messages. We answered one. We are going to end this right on time tonight, according to my producer. So we got about 4 minutes left. For those of you that you want to do a quick call-in and ask a question about tonight's Rays game, please go ahead and do so. We will allow you the next 4 minutes to do so. And we're looking forward to one heck of a game. We pinpoint all the bullet points for you tonight. We told you that the Dodgers are the home team, so the Rays will be batting first. The key is going to be, let's put that pressure on them right from the get-go. And I see my app is actually updating already, which is terrific, telling me that it's almost time. It looks like we're about 15 minutes away from first pitch right now, or maybe it's 13 minutes, away from first pitch. We got about 2 minutes left in our show. If you want to do a quick call, get to be that last phone call in, go ahead and do so. If you want to leave a quick comment, go ahead and do so. We'll allow it where you can go ahead and ask your last question of the night before we get ready for Game 6 of the World Series. As I'm moving stuff around here. So please go ahead and leave a message if you like. As I'm getting everything ready here. All right, let's see if we got any other messages on the hotline here. Then we're going to call it a night here in a second. So as far as tomorrow night goes, I just had a question there. What's the stat? Tomorrow night's show is going on. The time of the show is going to be depending on what happens in tonight's game, whether there's a Game 7 or not. Should the Rays win, which I expect them to win, we will be coming on at 7 o'clock tomorrow night on Crew Life and Frankly Speaking Sports, both networks, with a Frankly Speaking Rays Game 7 pregame show. We'll try to get some people from Crew Life on, from Frankly Speaking Sports on, and we'll try to build a lot of excitement around Game 7. In the event, unforeseen circumstances, that the Rays should lose tonight, we will be on with Frankly Speaking Bucks tomorrow night, 9 p.m. on our Crew Life sister station. So, once again, Rays win. 7 o'clock pregame show tomorrow. The unfortunate situation, they lose. We'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Frankly Speaking Bucks on Crew Life. The one thing we can promise you is after Wednesday night, we will be back to our regular time of 9 p.m. Eastern Time with our shows Monday through Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much for joining us on tonight's special telecast of the Rays pregame show, Frankly Speaking Sports. If you enjoyed it, please do me a favor. As we're getting a message from Mike down all the way in West Palm Beach, Florida, gut check for the Rays. We're going to find out, and who knows? We go Game 7. My buddy Mike works over there for NY Sports South. Maybe we'll get him on tomorrow night to help us preview the Rays and the Dodgers if there's a Game 7. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a great night. Let's go Rays, Rays up, and let's have a Game 7 tomorrow night.